Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you my March TBR. So this video is coming a little bit late. This is my little disclaimer at the beginning. This video and my other two kind of end of month videos, which will be my February wrap up and book haul, are coming a little bit late because I've been a little bit sick and under the weather, and thank you guys for the well wishes. It's been pretty miserable, just a nasty cold, but still. But yeah, no, I've been trying to get back into like the swing of booktube and all of that. This is the first time I've been in front of a camera in like 2 weeks, which is not great, but I'm glad I'm back. So anyway, that's why these are a little bit late. But I can tell you that the month of February was a really interesting one. And the reason I'm telling you about this now in my March TBR is because I think that there's going to be a big knock-on effect for what I'm reading in March. So a couple of things happened. I went completely wildly off my TBR. I usually don't go as wildly off the TBR as I did in February. And also I epically failed at the February readathon, which I'll talk about more in my wrap up. But I'm mentioning this because there's another readathon coming up in March, the Irish readathon, and I have, as per usual, a lot of stuff to read, and I don't really know what I want to read. So this was initially meant to be a very small stack of books, a very short video, but then a couple of review copies for the month of March came in over the past couple of days. So this is a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but I am going to go ahead and crack on. I'm going to start with the books that I'm going to be buddy reading, hopefully in the month of March. I have a couple and I'm really excited. Buddy reading is still a fairly new thing for me. I did my first like really successful buddy read in January with my friend Amber from Books of Amber when we read A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe, which neither of us liked actually. And we're going to be reading a couple more things, and I'm reading stuff with other friends as well. So I'm going to start with those. I'm going to talk about the books that I pulled off of my TBR for the Irish readathon, which is going to be very exciting. Fingers crossed I actually read some stuff for the Irish readathon. And then I have just some books that I'm thinking I'm probably going to read, but who knows. So first things first, I have my 3 buddy reads. I feel like I'm forgetting one. I might be forgetting one. We'll find out later on, but just to rattle through really quickly, I am in the middle of Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, also known as Seanan McGuire. This is one that I think a lot of you guys have been really excited for me to read. When I hauled this, I think in January, maybe. A lot of people seemed really excited, and I've like split it off into sections, but you can see I'm about halfway through at the moment and I am really enjoying it. It does have a lot of sciencey stuff that bogs things down a little bit, but it is really fun. So I'm about halfway through. I don't know when we're gonna finish, but we're doing about 50 pages or 3 chapters or so a day, but we're both really enjoying it, so we're cracking on pretty quickly. So you'll definitely see this in my March wrap up. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm reading this with Amber from Books of Amber. All of these I'm reading with Amber. So that's not a huge surprise. I will link her channel down below. Then, if we manage to get to it, Amber and I are going to read The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the sequel to the 5th season, which I did read in February, and you guys will hear more about in my February wrap-up. It was a book I really enjoyed. I don't think I hardcore love it as much as a lot of people do, but I did really enjoy it, and it was well worth the hype for me. I did a reading vlog for the 5th season, which I will link on the screen if you want to check that out. But fingers crossed we get to this. If we don't get to it in March, there's really no rush. We'll probably do it in April. And the biggie for the month is Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the sequel to City of Brass, which if you've been here for a while, you may remember was my #2 book of 2018. And I never got around to reading the sequel, but the time has come because Empire of Gold, the final book in this trilogy, is coming out in June, and I'm so excited. And I put up a poll in February on my Twitter, and I do a lot of this on Twitter. If you don't follow me, you can go ahead and do that, and you can participate in these kinds of exciting things. But I felt like I was really neglecting my big chunky books in favor of much shorter things, obviously, so that I could read them a lot faster. So I pulled a few of my sort of 500 or 600 plus page books from the shelf and asked what people thought I should read next. And this was the winner, and a bunch of my friends actually commented below that they really needed to read it too. So I'm going to be reading this with a fair few people, and I'm really, really excited. I am going to be reading this with two of my book blogging friends, Nikki and Emmy, and then of course Books of Amber and Bookwitch Reviews. So I will leave links to everyone's blog or YouTube channel below. You can go ahead and check them out, and this should be a really fun one. It's going to take a while, I think, but I think it's going to be a really great buddy read. From what I can tell, I think it's going to end on a big cliffhanger. It's probably going to break all of our hearts, so it's really nice that we have a support group. So next up is the Irish Readathon, and this is one I'm really looking forward to. This is hosted by Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing, who's one of my faves, and I'll link her announcement video down below. And I just randomly kind of picked some books off the shelf. I'm not really going with any prompts or anything like that because I wanted to try to have a little bit more success with this readathon than with the February one. Just so much got in the way of reading those books, and I really want to like make a big push to participate in this readathon because I love readathons. I just really suck at them. So I've got 3 books here. The first one you could probably see is Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin. All I know about this is that it is creepy and weird. It has a very, very creepy owl that will like scare the shit out of me. And I know so many people who adore this book. I've heard just incredible things about it, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't really want to know any more than that going in because I have a feeling that with this sort of like really weird and surreal book, just knowing as little as possible is going to be awesome. So this is one I've been wanting to read for ages. I think it came out in 2019. Then I have The Accident Season by Moira Fowley Doyle. You may remember that her most recent book, All the Bad Apples, made my best books of 2019 list. It was, if not the only, then one of the only YA books on that list. I adored that book so much, and I love Spellbook of the Lost and Found, which is the first book of hers that I read, and this is the only one that I have not read, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. Her books are very kind of, they're all contemporary set, but there's a sort of element of sort of the paranormal or like a dreamlike quality threaded through them. So this is about a girl whose family goes through something called the accident season. I think it's every year. She has a month of mysterious injuries and tragedies that are kind of a constant shadow cast over her family, but she begins to question things and everything's gonna go from there. I'm really excited. I love her books and I love her writing, and I just know this is going to be a big hit. I've been meaning to read this since I think 2017 when I read Spellbook of the Lost and Found, so I'm well overdue for this, and this was the first thing that leapt to mind when I heard about the Irish Readathon. And the last book that I have for the Irish Readathon is a review copy. This is Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran. This is her debut novel. It is an FF romance. It is YA fantasy, and it looks amazing. It's basically about a girl who inherits, I believe, her corrupt uncle's kingdom. Bankrupt, corrupt, kind of not a great place, but she's going to try to bring things back up. And she hires a new spy master who is out to, I think, get revenge for her murdered father, and the two of them grow very, very close, and I'm sure stuff happens. So this looks fantastic. It looks really good. This is one of the YA fantasy books that I'm really, really excited for. I've said this a million times. I've really been through a YA reading slump. However, this book looks fantastic. I'm really, really excited to read it. It comes out in April, at the end of April, and I want to give myself enough time to pick it up, and if I'm not in the mood to read it, to pick it up again a little bit later on. So I want to leave myself plenty of time to read this, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Okay, so last of all, I have some review copies, one of which I'm reading now, and I'm not hugely invested in at the moment, but I've heard that the second half really, really kicks things off from one of my very trusted friends. So we'll see how this goes. This is Kingdom of Liars by, I think it's Nick Martell, and this is a great big chunky fantasy book. It comes out in May from Glance in the UK, and it's basically about a man named Michael Kingman whose father was the best friend of the king. He comes from this very aristocratic family, and his father was executed for murdering the king's 9-year-old son. So this sort of crime has really tarnished this incredibly ancient and really well-respected family. Michael and his mother and sister they're not living on the streets, but they're very impoverished. They're really hard up for cash. And so he runs scams on the streets, scamming money out of nobles. So he kind of gets the opportunity to sort of get back in the ranks of the high nobility by being the kind of companion and caretaker to this very, very powerful man. However, when the book opens, we know that Michael, is on trial for murdering the king, and it's kind of a flashback to that time. I'm really intrigued. Michael is very young in this, and he's not the most lovable character. He's very selfish, he's very self-centered, and he's just not particularly nice, I don't think, but I've heard that the second half of this book really cracks on. So this is one I'm really looking forward to going ahead and continuing on with. When I finish Into the Drowning Deep, this is my next priority. Another book from Glance that I have is The Rearranged Life of Una Lockhart. This is by Margarita Montemor. This comes out, actually I think it just came out today on the 5th of March. And I hope you can like stick with me on this description because it took me so long to figure out what was going on with this. Basically, we have this character named Una Lockhart, and she wakes up on her birthday every year in a different year of her life. So say she'll be, I don't know, 22, and she'll hit her, which should be 23rd birthday, but she'll wake up and will be 37. And then she'll live through that year and she'll wake up on her birthday and suddenly she's 15. So her life is being lived completely out of order. She, you know, wakes up one year and she's married to a man she's never met before. She wakes up the next year, she's in high school, and she wants to kind of live her life to the fullest and not make the mistakes that she believes she's made. This sounds really wonderful. It's going to be either extremely heartbreaking, extremely heartwarming, I don't even know. It just looks so good. I think this is going to be one that I really, really love, and it's got that very light fantasy element, which I'm really into lately. Then we have the second book by N.K. Jemisin on this list. I was very fortunate to receive a review copy of The City We Became, which is her newest book and the start of a new series. And if you are new here, you may not know that I'm actually an ex-New Yorker. I live in the UK, but I lived in New York for 9 years, 5 of which were in New York City itself. And I have a very soft spot for books about New York, and this looks amazing. So I don't know a huge amount about it, but basically each city is kind of a living entity almost, and it has like soul. Each city has a soul, but New York City has 6. So these various people in New York City are kind of a part of the city's soul, I guess. This is really confusing, I'm so sorry. But basically these people kind of begin to awaken to sort of the magic of the city, and presumably they have to stop something horrible from happening. It looks really good. When I read it, will have a much better description of the book for you guys, but right now I'm just really excited to have this in my hands. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like little spot UV tentacles on the cover, and it's just, everything about this is making me so happy. I'm really looking forward to this, especially as a former New Yorker. I think that this is going to bring me a lot of joy, and it's going to be great. This is a super, super, super high priority for me. It comes out from Orbit Books late in March, I think around the 23rd or 28th of March. And the last book that I have is one that I think has been quite controversial, and I think it is out by the time this video will go up, and it's one I'm really excited for. This is Docile, and this is by K.M. Sparza. This comes out from Tor Books, and I think it has had a lot of mixed reaction because it's quite intense, I think, and I think it's quite kinky as well, which is its own brand of exciting. So this, I think, is going to really fall into my love of sci-fi books that deal with near future mankind and how we have stopped seeing other people, especially people less fortunate than ourselves, as people. So books like Gilded Cage by Vic James, where people, you know, essentially are forced to sell themselves into slavery as like the government's law, or like Emma Newman's books in which the government corporations literally own people's lives. I think that's really, really bleak, but I think that this book is gonna fall into that category of books that I do really, really enjoy, no matter how bleak they are. So this book follows a character named Alicia Wilder. and his family has basically been ruined by this system of becoming a docile. And if you are a docile, you essentially sell yourself, body and soul, to an owner. They pick up your contract and you serve them in however way they see fit. And there's this drug called Dosaline, and his mother took that drug during her time as a docile and is basically just never recovered from that. So he, in order to settle family debt, is going to sell himself as a docile. Unfortunately, the family that picks up his contract are the ones who created Dosaline, and they refuse to believe that their drug has any kind of negative effect. And this drug basically numbs you for the entire time that you are a docile. You can kind of forget and disappear and, you know, hide inside your own body until the time is over, to kind of hide from the traumas of what you're gonna experience. So Alex, who is the kind of son of this family who is going to own Alicia, is refusing to believe that there are any negative side effects to this drug and is going to turn him into the perfect docile without it. This sounds really fucking dark. I would suggest, I haven't done this yet, but if this is one you're interested in, I would suggest maybe going ahead and looking at some content warnings. I know that there has been a lot of buzz for this book, so I'm sure there are lots of early reviews, so go ahead and check those out. But this sounds great. This is probably one to maybe read some like fluffy things in between. I don't really know, but I'm really looking forward to this. I think it could be a really important book, and I think it could be a really fantastic book as well. So we'll see how it goes, but this one is definitely the one that makes me the most nervous on this list, but I'm also really looking forward to it. So that is it for my March TBR. I don't know what I'm going to read in March. We'll see. I have a lot of stuff that is coming up in March in terms of review copies. I have lots of stuff that's coming up in April, and I don't really know what I'm gonna read. I don't know how this is gonna go. Fingers crossed you'll see a lot of these books on my wrap up, but we'll see. Stay tuned. In the comments below, I would love to hear if you have read any of these books, if they are on your list as well, or if you enjoy buddy reads, or guys, if you want to buddy read anything with me, definitely let me know. I'll probably have to do it like in April or further on, but I would really, really love to get more into buddy reading, so let me know. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.